What's going on, you bunch of heathens? Today we are checking out Black Hawk Down, the Battle of Mogadishu 1993, Part 1, animated by the Operations Room. I was super impressed by their last one that I watched, and I really love this movie. It's an incredible movie, so I wanted to check it out. Let's jump in.
This is Romeo 6-4 to all elements. Irene.
Irene.
With the launch code issued, the Earth rumbles as the armada of helicopters lift off the ground and head out. Somali spotters near the airport radio ahead to warn that the Americans are on their way.
I can just imagine the movie portion of this.
The ocean, a convoy of 9 Humvees and 3 5-ton trucks leave the base and head towards the city. It's 3:35 p.m. The raiding force should be in and out in 30 minutes.
Should is the operative
word. Civil war, with multiple parties and clans violently competing for power. UN troops have been deployed to the country to maintain peace and ensure the distribution of food supplies to the people. The UN brings about a settlement between the factions to lay down their arms and move towards national unity and democracy. One faction, the Somali National Alliance, or SNA, despite signing the agreement, ignores it and attacks UN troops in the area.
Not a big surprise.
1993. The US deploys Task Force Ranger to Mogadishu Airport, a special forces group made up of Rangers, SEALs, the 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment, and
Night Stalkers,
from the 1st Special Forces Operational Detachment Delta, also known as Delta Force. Task Force Ranger, or TFR, are here to find and kill or capture the leader of the SNA, General Mohammed Farah Aidid. The SNA is predominantly made up of Aidid's own clan, a form of family tribal structure, the Harbour Gadir, and it is hoped that toppling Aidid will halt the violence. Task Force Ranger launches raids into Mogadishu to capture Aidid, but have so far been...
The fact that I know a bunch of people, quite a few people died. Out of this picture, how many of these dudes survived it? It's just really sad to think about. That all these dudes were more than likely younger than I am. Like, I'm 24, about to turn 25 in like a month. It's really sad to think that a lot of these guys, quite a few, not a lot of the guys, but quite a few of the guys in this, not necessarily this picture, but part of this group, you know, who was here and took part in the Battle of Mogadishu, didn't live to see how old I am, you know, which is really sad to think about.
Been unsuccessful. In July 1993, American Cobra attack helicopters launch rockets and cannon fire into a building they believe to be hosting a meeting between Aidid and his war council. Aidid isn't present, and an American war correspondent reports that the meeting was actually between Somali elders discussing routes to peace. With 200 casualties inside the building, the SNA seized the opportunity to promote anti-American sentiment and propaganda in the city. Fury at the Americans' presence builds in Mogadishu, and 4 Western journalists covering the story are killed by an angry mob. On the 3rd of October 1993, Task Force Ranger receives a tip-off of the location of an SNA meeting in the city, with Aidid's foreign minister Omar Salad El-Mim and his top political advisor Mohammed Hassan Awali in attendance. With just 2 hours' notice, TFR prepares and launches a raid to snatch them both, hoping this will bring them closer to Aidid himself. The plan is for AH-6 Little Birds to land the Delta Force teams on the street outside the target building. Is that real picture of the operation? El-Mim and Awali, and they will storm the building. Meanwhile, 4 Ranger Chalks, squads of 15 men, will fast rope down from hovering Blackhawks to each corner of the block surrounding the target building and establish a perimeter. Once the prisoners are secured, the Humvee and truck convoy led by Lieutenant Colonel Danny McKnight will roll in front of the target building, load the entire raiding force and prisoners
no
on board,
fucking armor on
and
those
exfil
vehicles
back to base before Aidid's militia can mobilize against them. All the while, the Blackhawks and Littlebirds will circle around to provide air cover. A command and control Blackhawk directs the forces, and a combat search and rescue helicopter is ready to react to any problems should they arise. For more substantial problems, the 10th Mountain Division are on standby as a quick reaction force at their base in the west of the city.
I do know
the
that.
peacekeeping UN.
From what I've heard, I'm pretty sure 10th Mountain actually did quite a bit to help during this battle.
Pakistani and Malaysian troops and armour are not on standby, but occupy the new port area of the city in the south. The whole plan should take 30 minutes to complete. With an EP-3
Unfortunately, that doesn't
and an
happen.
OH-58 Kiowa circling overhead providing a live video feed to overall Commander General Garrison, the helicopters scream in towards the target building in the area of the Olympic Hotel to begin the assault. Tyres are burning around the city. With US forces jamming radio signals, the tyre burning is a signal to the SNA militia throughout the city that the Americans are coming. AH-6 Littlebirds, armed with miniguns and rocket pods, lead the way up Holwardig Road to spot any armed Somalis, and with the coast clear, the MH6s throw up a dust storm as they land with precision in front of the target building. Delta Force operators, nicknamed D-Boys, hop off the benches and move into the target building. The time is 3:42 PM. The 4 Ranger Chalks begin fast roping down from hovering Blackhawks to the street 60.
You know, the Rangers, not the Rangers, the Delta Boys did fucking amazing. How many died during this? Was it 2 or 4 of them, maybe? I can't remember. Honestly, I just keep thinking of the movie. God, the movie's so good. I need to watch the movie.
50 feet below.
Again.
The Chalks form L-shaped defensive positions on each corner of the block, except for Chalk 4, who have accidentally been dropped a block further away.
Oh
This is
no.
the first time out as the leader of Chalk 4, for Staff Sergeant Matt Eversman, and in his Chalk, the first ever combat mission for 18-year-old Private Todd Blackburn, fresh in from high school and boot camp, but having not yet been to Ranger School.
18. 18 and he gets injured. I can't imagine that. I can't imagine being fresh out of high school and fresh out of boot camp. Not even in Ranger School yet. Going into this kind of shit.
For whatever reason, likely excitement and adrenaline, Blackburn completely misses the rope as he exits the aircraft and falls 60 feet to the ground. Medics run to attend to him.
It's fucking insane.
The raid is taking place close to the Bakara Market, an ID'd controlled area of the city with a high concentration of SNA militia. With the pre-warning that the raid was coming, hundreds of militia are organised, armed and waiting. Fire begins to erupt on the Rangers from all directions. SNA runners move out across the city to mobilise militia further afield, who begin to arm themselves, mount up on trucks, and head in the direction of the helicopters circling above the city.
Not good that Chalk 4 isn't on this fucking corner, because look at this. Now this entire corner is... Now these guys and these guys are both weak to these guys, whereas these guys...
However,
that's
as the
not a good
SNA
fucking
are
situation to
only using
be
runners
in.
on foot, 30 minutes should be plenty of time for the raiding force to exfil from the area before the city swarms in.
Yeah. Keyword being should.
Medics stabilise Blackburn, but with the fire raining down on them, a helicopter evacuation is out of the question. They'll have to wait for the convoy. Rocket-propelled grenades, RPGs, are now being fired at the defending Rangers. A crowd of unarmed locals are also forming around the raid site. The situation is manageable, but the strength of the resistance is much higher than expected. While the Delta operators move through the target building, the Humvee convoy arrives on the street outside.
I can't imagine being an unarmed civilian and being like, oh, hey, there's a bunch of gunfire going down over here. Between our militia and another military. Let me go stand next to it to see what the fuck's going. I can't imagine doing that. Like, if I'm hearing gunshots, it's like having, like, a SWAT team and a bunch of criminals having a shootout, and me walking up across the street and be like, huh, what's going on over there? I can't imagine doing that.
Side and waits for them
That's
to
crazy
complete
to
their
me.
work. Eversman orders 5 men in his chalk to move Blackburn over to the waiting vehicles. Chalk 2's M60 machine gunner, Sean Nelson, can see a larger crowd, numbering in the thousands, forming further down the street he's monitoring. He spots an
that'd
armed
be
group
fucking
following a
scary
man,
to see.
confidently riding a cow out into the street in front of him, wielding an AK. He opens fire on the man, and the rest of the group scatter. Just at that moment, a Black Hawk sweeps overhead and looses blistering fire on the street below with its minigun. The group and the cow don't last long. Another group of 15 Somalis approach. Some are armed and using the unarmed amongst them as human shields. He first tries to aim just at the militia, but with Nelson and the rest of Chalk 2 taking fire from the group, he weighs the decision and decides he has no choice but to open fire on all of them. The group scatters, leaving armed and unarmed dead. Seeing this, a larger group...
That's an insane situation to be in. Like, how do you judge that? Because he's not very... this Nelson wouldn't be very fucking old. At least I'm pretty sure his name was Nelson. Or is Nelson the person in charge of it? Either way, that'd be an insane situation to be in. Of, fuck, I'm getting these guys who are shooting at me and my friends are coming closer to me, but they're using unarmed people in front of them as human shields. I can't only, and it's getting bad enough to where I can't only engage the armed people. I have to make the call. Do I risk the people I'm with or them? And he made the decision to protect the people. Protect his friends. That's an insane situation to be in.
A group of militia and unarmed locals charge at Chalk 2. This time, without time to think about it, the Chalk returns fire. At that moment, a little bird marauds down the street above their heads and inflicts a devastating minigun run on the crowd. The display of awesome firepower disperses any survivors.
Okay, so I'm assuming armed combatants versus unarmed civilians, I guess. Damn. 3 here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's a lot of civilians.
All 4 Chalks are now being forced into the tough decision to open fire on militia who are using unarmed people as human shields. From the perspective of the locals who are just arriving at the scene, they see the Americans indiscriminately firing on civilians, and the fury of the citizens grows further. The hornet's nest has been stirred.
You're starting to kick the hornet's nest.
Sends 3 Humvees to carry critically injured Blackburn back to base immediately. The journey should only take 5 minutes, but they've driven into the storm. They turn onto National Street to find militia on both sides firing into them, with stray rounds into each other as they drive through. Paulson, manning the .50 caliber machine gun on the lead Humvee, fires right, and Pillar in the second fires left. In the furious torrent of fire, Pillar is killed instantly by a round to the forehead. In that moment, fighting
Rest
for
in
their
peace.
lives, and with RPGs now flying down the street at them, a call comes over the radio from Sergeant Gallagher, a platoon sergeant with the main force at the target building. "How are you guys doing?" Taking heavy fire, Strucker shouts, "I don't want to talk about it." Unsatisfied,
Rest in
Gallagher
peace.
calls again. "Have you got any casualties?" "Yeah, 1. Strucker replies, deliberately short. "Who is he and what's his status?" "It's Pillar. And what's his status?"
Look how young he is. Dude is... Like, I'm fucking tearing up over this. Like... God, he's so fucking...
He's dead. The busy radio network falls to silence. The first, but not the last, TFR trooper has lost his life. Sustaining further injuries,
Hold on, I gotta look this up really quick. I gotta know how many fucking died. Because it's really bothering me that I don't know. It's really bothering me that I don't know how many fucking of our soldiers died. 18 killed, 84 wounded of the Americans. 1 Malaysian killed, 7 wounded, and 2 Pakistani wounded. Like too many dead over all of this. Like, it is really fucking sad. And too many fucking died here.
Continue
It's
to fight their
sad.
way back to the airport. The Delta Boys have apprehended the 2 targets and a further 22 SNA prisoners and are loading them into the trucks. It's now nearly 40 minutes after the first boots landed. The process of clearing the building and
40 minutes after the first boots landed, in an operation that was only supposed to take 30 minutes.
processing the prisoners is taking longer than expected. There is also confusion with the
Always
Delta team
playing for
waiting
shit to
the
take
comms
longer
from
than
the
it should.
convoy to leave the building, and the convoy waiting for the Delta team to let them know that they've apprehended the prisoners. Every minute the mob grows stronger, but the Rangers and circling helicopters are so far keeping them at bay. Chalk 4 Rangers Galantine and Berenson take non-critical hits, with Galantine losing a finger.
Oh,
Chief Warrant
fuck.
Officers Cliff Elvis Walcott and Donovan Bull Briley, pilots of Super 6-1, continue to maneuver their helicopter at low level above the action.
Kind of surprised. I'm honestly, I don't know why. Maybe someone could tell me, or I'll look it up at a later date. Why didn't Chalk 4 try to move closer to the where they were supposed to be right off the bat? You know? Or was it was bad enough just right off the bat to where they just couldn't?
Their crew chiefs discharging thousands of rounds from their miniguns at the militia below, and 4 Delta snipers picking off the enemy through the open doors. On the first day of the ground war of Desert Storm, Walcott had been one of the pilots to fly special forces deep into Iraq to recon Saddam's forces.
Walcott.
He is a legend in the special operations community.
Yeah.
During a turn to port,
The name is very familiar. Is he one of the people who died? I can't
Starboard
remember.
Gunner Staff Sergeant
Oh, I
Warren
feel fucking
spots
bad.
a militiaman with an RPG below him. Hey, I've got a guy with an RPG. He's at 5 o'clock, moving to 6 o'clock. Sergeant Randy, the portside gunner, can't spot the man as the helicopter continues the turn. Is he by a building or something you can describe? Before Warren can respond, the RPG round flashes skyward and hits the tail of Super 6-1. The Black Hawk enters an uncontrollable spin. The Rangers of Chalk 2 hear the impact and watch in horror as one of their own helicopters spins erratically around the sky, smoke trailing from its tail. The radio net erupts in panicked calls. "We got a Black Hawk going down. We got a Black Hawk going down."
It's hanging out the helicopter.
Delta operator Sergeant Smith isn't wearing his seatbelt and desperately holds onto a crew seat, the spin pulling his legs outside the door of the aircraft as it descends. He took an
That'd
RPG.
be fucking
6-1 is
terrifying.
going down. In the cockpit, Walcott coolly and in a banterous fashion asks his co-pilot, "Hey Bull, you gonna pull the PCLs offline or what?"
That'd be a terrifying situation to be in. Even if you're not in the helicopter, can you just imagine? You're in a full-on shit show, trying to not die, and then out of nowhere, your radio erupts with, "Oh shit, 6-1 was hit by a fucking RPG. They're going down." Like, oh my god. Like, I could already, the stomach drop of that would be insane.
A procedure to attempt to control the spin. It's no use, and still maintaining his composure, Walcott makes one last radio transmission, 6-1 going down. The Black Hawk clips a roof and plows into the street below, rolling over onto its side in a ball of dust and debris. Both pilots are killed instantly. It is later deemed likely that Walcott deliberately pitched the helicopter's nose down at the last second, ensuring that the pilots absorbed the impact, saving the lives of the crew in the back. The command and control bird
Fucking
above
hero.
orders all available nearby rangers to push to the crash site.
R.I.P.
Chalk 2 is
Poor
nearest,
fucking guys didn't
so
need to
8
die.
of the 15 rangers in that chalk move out on foot into the city. The convoy is ordered to prepare to move to the crash site immediately. A message is sent to the Quick Reaction Force of the 10th Mountain Division to mobilise for the massive fight that is about to take place. Ideed is not to be underestimated.
No, he's not to be underestimated, but the U.S. kind of did underestimate him. The planners of this mission, like, fuck. This went to shit almost immediately. It's fucking horrible.
He was educated in Rome before postgraduate study in military science
Rome?
at the Frunze Military Academy in the Soviet Union. He has carefully studied the Soviet campaign in Afghanistan in the 1980s and found that guerrilla forces were successful in bringing down Soviet attack helicopters with shoulder-launched RPGs. His battle plan with the Americans is to draw them deep into his territory in the city, and then swarm the area with RPGs, bring down a helicopter, and then collapse the city around the troops on the ground, overrunning them in the chaos.
Smart.
Super 6-1's shoot
We're
down
really
is no
fucking
accident.
smart.
Of the surviving 2 crew and 4 Delta operators, only 2 are not seriously injured. Having just survived a brutal helicopter crash, Sergeants Bush and Smith emerge and defend themselves and the rest of the survivors from the now arriving locals. Littlebird Star 4-1 is the first help to arrive at the crash scene. They land near the alley and are immediately charged at by Somalis. The 2 pilots, Warrant Officers Jones and Meyer, defend themselves from the cockpit with pistol fire. Jones hops out and moves to the wreckage just as Lieutenant D. Tommaso arrives with the 7 other.
Sorry, let me back up really quick. I got kind of distracted with
charged
some.
at by Somalis. The 2 pilots, Warrant Officers Jones and Meyer, defend themselves from the cockpit with pistol fire. Jones hops out and moves to the wreckage just as Lieutenant D. Tommaso arrives with the 7 other members of Chalk 2 to form a defensive perimeter. They find that Bush has been killed defending the survivors. They move his body into the Littlebird, and Sergeant Smith also hops on
R.I.P.
board.
I can't remember if this is the. I don't think it was this dude. I think it's. Spoiler alert. A second Black Hawk goes down. I think it's the pilot of Little Bird. In the who lands in the during the second Black Hawk down. He or who got a commendation for what he did. Because I think he hopped out of his bird to go fucking check on them. But he plays one of the pilots plays themselves in the fucking movie, which is insane.
Super 6-1 pilots Walcott and Briley are dead, and the rest of the survivors require medical attention before they can be evacuated. Littlebird Star 4-1 lifts off and heads back to base. The Humvee convoy rolls up to Sergeant Eversman's Chalk 4, and under heavy fire they get in. People now line the streets, roofs and windows, firing down into them. They turn right towards the crash site.
Really
but,
shitty situation to be in.
disoriented, the lead Humvee then turns south, now heading away from the crash site. Ranger Commander Captain Steele orders the remaining Chalks and Delta operators to move on foot towards the crash. They encounter heavy resistance. Delta Sergeant Fillmore is killed en route. With one less Black Hawk in the low orbit role covering troops on the ground, the Command and Control Bird radios Chief Warrant Officer Mike Durant in Super 6-4, loitering to the north of the city. Super 6-4, this is Alpha 5-1. Come up and join Super.
This is the second bird that goes down, Super 6-4.
6-2 in his orbit. 6-4 is inbound.
I'm already tearing up thinking
Durant
about
heads
knowing
south
what
towards the
happens.
city. The Combat Search and Rescue Black Hawk Super 6-8 arrives at the crash site, and the team of Rangers and D-Boys begin to fast rope down to the street below. With men still on the rope, the helicopter is hit by an RPG. In a display of superb airmanship, Pilots Dan Galotta and Herb Rodriguez hold the helicopter steady while the men complete their fast rope. They ascend from the area
Fucking great
and successfully
pilots.
manage
Took
to
an
put their
RPG
stricken
and kept it
aircraft
fucking
down at
great.
the friendly Newport area in the
Fucking took an RPG, but still managed to hold it steady for these guys to get out of the helicopter before fucking leaving.
south.
Fucking based.
Under heavy fire, the CSAR team moves the
Chads.
2 remaining wounded crew chiefs to a nearby shelter. They then move to strengthen the perimeter set up by Chalk 2 at the intersection just west of the crash. The convoy is lost. Under heavy fire, they can't afford to slow down, but it's taking time to relay directions to the crash site from the aircraft above McKnight. The locals are now building makeshift roadblocks throughout the area, using tables, chairs, and general debris. Fearing bombs planted inside the roadblocks, the Humvees can't simply drive through them. They make several wrong turns and loop around
they're being
the area
fucking
of the
herded.
target building. 10 minutes after Walcott's Super 6-1 went down, Durant's Super 6-4 is on station over the rooftops, providing minigun fire support for the Humvees below. At 4:40 PM, Durant's Black Hawk takes an RPG hit to the tail section. He pulls the aircraft out of the orbit and points southwest towards the airport. It's leaking oil, but the controls are still responding, and he believes they can make it back. All of a sudden, the tail rotor gearbox and most of the tail itself completely disintegrates. The Black Hawk enters a violent spin. He radios, Super 6-4 going in hard, we're going down. Just before hitting with the ground, the pilots manage to level off the chopper, and as it impacts with the earth, the helicopter lands flat on its belly. This is crucial, and as a result, the crew survive. Black Hawk Super 6-2 circles the crash site, and immediately spots a mob of people moving towards it from all directions. They can see the convoy still driving around.
Be so fucking scary to be in that situation. You just on either situation. A, you just crashed, or B, you just saw a sister helicopter go down, and you're seeing a mob, a huge mob of, you can't even tell how many people moving towards them, and you know that there's not really much anything you can do to them for them. That is a scary situation to be in.
Round lost in the city. To the west, Struker's 3 Humvees that had earlier evacuated Private Blackburn back to the airport have now rearmed, and with a volunteer force of cooks, clerks, and injured rangers, are attempting to fight their way back into the city, but are pinned down.
Cooks, clerks, and injured rangers are
Delta
going back in.
Sergeants
Fuck
Randy
yeah.
Shugart and Gary Gordon,
Rangers lead the
onboard
way,
Super
motherfuckers.
6-2, can see for themselves that Super 6-4 will shortly be overrun, and that both convoys are nowhere near. They volunteer to deploy on the ground to defend the crash site. At first, Harrell and Matthews in the Command and Control Bird reject the request, but after discussion they agree that they have no choice, and if anyone can hold off the mob, Delta Force operators, the elite of the US military, might be the only chance to save the crew of Super 6-4. Shugart and Gordon are inserted on the ground nearby, and
This... just what happens just keeps going through my head, and it's hard to think about. Gordy... what's the line he says? Gordy's gone, man?
make their way
Fucking
to the
horrendous to think about. And
they find that all 4 crewmen
makes
have
me
survived the
tear
crash.
up. Like,
The Delta
legit
operators carefully move Durant
sad.
to a tree next to a shack on the right side of the downed helicopter. His back and leg are broken. They hand him his MP5K submachine gun before moving to the other side of the Black Hawk to face the incoming mob. To his left is an alleyway. Durant covers their backs by firing on any
scenes from the movie are just flashing through my head, like, oh no. I don't know why I'm so emotional about it. Probably because the movie recreated it so well, apparently. And just God, so fucking sad.
Super 6-2, the helicopter that had dropped Shugart and Gordon on the second crash site, is now circling overhead,
especially
opening fire
knowing
on
what
the armed crowd
happens.
bearing down on the crash site. The RPG fire up at them is intense, and nearby helicopters warn Super 6-2 of how close the explosions are getting. With snipers on nearby Little Birds also firing down on the crowd, the mob is being kept at bay. But it doesn't last. On the ground, Durant hears Gary Gordon cry out in pain from the other side of the helicopter.
Gordy's gone, man.
After a few seconds, Shugart brings Gordon's weapon to Durant, loaded and ready to fire. Above them, Super 6-2's pilot Mike Gaffina sees Gordon has been killed and radios a desperate plea. This is Super 6-2. Ground element crash site number 2 has
I'm gonna
no security
fucking
right
cry.
now. They have one guy on the ground. Are there any nearby ground forces moving to crash site 2 at this time? Negative, not at this time. RPGs continue to flash.
I'm gonna fucking cry. Those two went in knowing that they probably wouldn't survive because they needed to help him. So fucking sad. This didn't.
Up towards
I can't even. I don't know what the fuck I'm trying to say. It's just so fucking sad.
His co-pilot and one of the Delta snipers in the back are heavily wounded in the blast. Gaffina has almost no control over the aircraft and somehow manages to crash land it in the Newport area to the south. The miniguns of Super 6-2 are no longer raining lead from above, and after an hour of desperate fighting, Shugart runs out of ammunition. The mob finally overruns Super 6-4. 3 of the 4 crewmen and snipers Gordon and Shugart are all killed. The angry locals are in the process of beating Durant to death when his life is spared by an SNA member who decides to take him to ID'd as a prisoner. Shugart and Gordon would later be awarded posthumous Medals of Honor.
Good for them. They fucking deserve it.
Taking a hammering in the city, with 50% of the troops inside.
I can't remember. Does Durant fucking survive? I'm looking this up now. I can't remember. Does fucking Durant survive? I've got to look this up. Battle Mogadishu, blah, blah, blah. No, yes, he did survive. He was held a captive for 11 days. And eventually freed. Fuck's sake.
The vehicles.
I'm glad he survived.
Suffered gunshots.
I honestly could not remember.
Struker's Humvees are unable to fight their way back in. 2 Blackhawks have been shot down. Another 2.
Okay, so you got Chalk 1, Chalk 2, first crash, Chalk 3, Chalk 4, or then there's the convoy. Second crash site. Where's Chalk 4 in all of this?
Have been damaged by RPG hits, and most of the others are riddled with bullet holes. Chalks 1, 2 and 3 are taking casualties on foot fighting 2 and defending crash site 1. The mission launched at 3:35 PM.
Yeah, because if I remember correctly, I'm sure they'll go into it in part 2 because this is the end. They decide to cut out the pilots of 6-1 to get their bodies home, which was a whole thing, which involved Mogadishu Mile. Where's Chalk 4? I can't remember exactly where they
are. The fight
are.
will continue throughout the night.
Because I've never looked into the actual battle of it. I've only really heard about the movie and depictions in games and such about this.
And the troops on the ground are running out of water and ammunition and didn't bring night vision equipment.
No, because from what I heard, they didn't think they would need it because it was only supposed to take 30 minutes.
If the Rangers and Delta operators on the ground can hold out into the night, 100 Malaysian and Pakistani tanks and armoured vehicles with US Humvees can launch a large-scale armoured assault into the city. The time is now 5:40 p.m.
Dude, they're so fucking far away, though.
The won't move out until 11:30 p.m. They're in the fight of their lives.
Okay. Support me. Is he like a single dude or something? If you know, let me know. Cal was classified as an unarmed casualty. That is pretty fucking funny. If you know, how many people work on this? It says support me. And this is 3 years old, but if he's only one dude, hats off to him. Make sure you check him out and give the original video a like and whatnot. Subscribe to him. He's fucking amazing. Like, holy shit. I never really looked into this, and I'm super glad I fucking did. Because this is... Ooh. Dude, thank you to... I can't remember who did. Let me look it up real quick. Thank you to whoever the fuck recommended me these guys. Because they are fucking amazing. Here it is. There's this. YouTube Studio really quick. I know I'm kind of holding it up, but I gotta look this up. Operations room. So there's this guy. 1 month ago, it's Speeboo, and then Rep. 1 month ago, someone mentioned them. Okay, let's see. Not this dude. So 1 month ago, Speeboo mentioned them. Try something from the operations room. And then 2 days ago on my video I did on them, Rep 4063 said he recommends all their videos from them. So far, I believe him. These are so fucking cool and just really interesting to actually see like the top-down view of everything. And I'm so glad I decided to check them out. Make sure you guys check these guys out. They fucking deserve it. Like and subscribe if you want to see more. And maybe not next video, but maybe so, because I'm really into this. We'll check out part 2 of this video. So until next time, take care of yourselves. See ya.